Howdy students, this tutorial is to teach you how to make a spiral staircase of any height a lot faster using variables. So the first thing we want to do is log into Tinkercad and then go to the code blocks section of Tinkercad over here. Then we'll want to click on this blue create new code block button up here. And then once that thing loads, we'll want to click on New Design. Okay. Now, before we created a center pole and then one at a time created stairs and put them off to the right and then lifted and rotated them. We're going to forget about the pole for right now because that was just serving as a guide. And let's build our first and only stair we'll have to make on our own. So let's pull out a box shape right here and open up the size settings. I'll zoom in on that so it's a little easier to see. And we want to make those size settings the same as when we made this on our own. So we'll want this to have a length of 5 and a height of 4, but let's leave the width 20. So if I play that, you can see that that gives us the right size stair there. It's not in the right place yet. We also will need to move this and rotate it. So let's go get those blocks as well. If we go into the modify section of Tinkercad Codeblocks, we can go and find ourselves a move block. Let's pull that in here and let's get a rotate block and put that in here. Okay, so to be able to I'm going to pull the rotate block away for just a sec because we're not quite ready for that. So one thing we need to do is move this block to the right 10 spaces. That's along the x-axis. So we need to make the x-axis be 10. Okay, so let's play that. And you can see that moves it to the right. It still needs to be moved up to sit on the work plane, but we'll get to that in a minute. Okay. Now I could type 2 into the Z here to get it to lift, but again, that's setting me up to have to do all of the work, and I don't want to do all the work. I want the computer to do the work for us using a much more efficient method. So the two things we had to change manually were how much we were lifting it and how much we were rotating each time. Okay, so since that's going to go up at a predictable rate, going up each time by the same amount, we can keep track of that with a tool called a variable. You'll know that word from math class. So we can go into the math section of Tinkercad Codeblocks and pull out a create variable block. Now this one's a little quirky. You need to make sure it's not touching anything yet, so don't connect it to anything yet. If you did, pull it apart, and we're going to go into the item menu here, and we're going to rename this and call this how much we're going to lift it. So the word lift, L-I-F-T. And so we're going to rename it lift, and let's give that an initial or starting value of 2, since the first block needs to be lifted up 2 millimeters to get to the top there. Now on this next one, we will need to create a second variable. When you pull the second one out, make sure it's not going to be connected to anything. I like to put it next to stuff so it is not in danger of getting connected. If you connect it by accident, pull it back apart before you go and rename it. So now you want to go in and rename this item, and let's rename this one, and we're going to call this one rotate. Okay, so there we go, and we're going to leave that with an starting value of 0. Okay, so we're going to go in here and connect those two. So now we're ready to actually set this thing up. So what we wanted to do is move every step to the right here, 10. So that's always going to change. And then we want it to get lifted up by whatever number is currently in the lift variable. So the way we tell it to do that is to go down here to the blue data section. And once you've created some variables and renamed them, you'll see that there are these blue kind of oval shaped blocks here that you can drag out. So I want to pull this lift variable and put that in the Z0 section. So I want it to move each block to the right 10, but to lift it up by whatever number is inside lift. Okay, we start with 2, so it's going to lift that first one up 2. Okay, so we took care of the lifting part. Now for the rotation part. The rotation has a few steps to it, so be careful here. Let's pull this rotation block and connect it with the move block. And we want these, just like before, to rotate around the Z axis. That's that center pole. We want it rotating around that. So let's make it rotate around the Z axis. Okay. We want it to rotate by a certain number of degrees. So I am going to go and pull the rotate variable from our data section out and put it where it says 90. So it's going to rotate by however many degrees is in the rotate variable right here. So I want it to rotate around the Z axis. I want the amount to be whatever is in the rotate variable. You can get that from the blue data section here after you've created the variable. And then lastly, we need to go to that math section and get the point x0, y0, z0 to be our pivot point. That's the very middle of it. Okay, so if we connect all of this up right now and press play, it should move that first block up to where we needed it to be. Okay, so that gives us one block. Okay, but what if we want more than one block? Well, we need to add in a couple more things here. So I'm going to separate this out here so the create variables happen separately. And now I want to actually change my variables for the next stair up. So I'm going to go to the math section and grab a change item by one block. And I want to change the lift variable each time and make it go up the height of one of these stairs. I want it, the second one to be, since the stairs are 4 high, I want the next one to be 4 millimeters higher than the last one. So each time it draws a block and lifts and rotates it, it'll change the variable, increasing it by 4. Okay, we need to do the same thing for the rotate variable. So I'm going to grab another change item by 1. And this time I want to change the rotate variable by 15. Okay, so we just added in 2 changes here. And then the last thing we need is a loop. This will repeat a certain section over and over and over. So we're going to pull that repeat up in here. And let's first start this with 5. Repeat 5 times. Okay, to create 5. And let's connect the create variables. So this is all in one. And then pressing play, we can see that this will make 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So that looks pretty good. I'm going to increase the speed of my preview here. And now if I want more stairs, all I got to do is change this repeat. So now let's have it do it 50 times. Now, before you hit play, make sure the speed is all the way up because that's going to take a while if you don't. So here we go. And there is, oh, I have to zoom way out. And there is a beautiful spiral staircase, 50 steps high. Fantastic. So, lastly, I forgot to rename this tall spiral staircase. So we want to do that and then go mark the assignment as done. I hope that helps.